Now, someone had a question on one of my comments relating to bugs because
a recent report says insects are the future of food.
Bugs for dinner?
Eating insects?
They want us to all eat bugs by 2050 because of the rise of population. Will be roughly about maybe 9 billion people on this planet. So how are we going to feed them? I mean, everyone knows this fact because of the climate change and beef is not sustainable. We need to find other sources of food.
I like to say my life's mission is to breed a bug that tastes like bacon.
And yes, they even say the grass-fed regenerative farming type agriculture needs to go because of all the cow burping and the methane and what that does to the environment, because that's the big problem. And one of the big solutions would be the bugs because they're so high in protein and they're so nutrient dense. Well, let's do a little breakdown of this topic, because if we take 100 grams of these bugs, in this 100 grams, we have about 12 grams of actual protein. And there's about 5 grams of fat, 5 grams of carbs, a little iron, a little tiny bit of fat. But is 12 grams enough for our bodies? Actually, no. If we do the math and look at the actual number of crickets that we're gonna have to eat to get close to this protein, we're gonna have to 4x that. That's a nice big bucket of crickets. But for a lot of people, they're gonna need to 8 times that figure every single day to get their protein amount. I guess we can mash them up and put them into pizzas, and with all these other different flavorings, we can put them in burgers, sweeten them, and that might be a solution. But what about the cost? It's gonna be quite expensive, right? But they can bring the cost down by feeding the crickets, you know, cheaper materials like maybe corn, soy, beet sugar, something like that. The problem with that is the nutrition comes down, you know, and then the protein level comes down, and that's one little issue. Quite expensive to have healthy insects to eat, okay? Number 2, we're gonna have to get everyone to give up their traditional cultural foods, and that might take some work.
I think that the first bite is the hardest, and then after that, people go, wow, that tastes pretty good.
Oh, the crunch.
Number 3, and this is probably the biggest one, when you compare an insect with beef, it's not the same. For anyone to say that it's identical, they're lying through their teeth. It's not even close. And I'm not just talking about the protein. I'm talking about the quality of protein. I'm talking about the nutrition, all these other factors that is in beef that is not in crickets. So don't buy into it's the same thing. Number 4, insects carry pathogens. So there's one study in 2019 that evaluated quite a few cricket farms that were developing edible crickets, and 81% of them had parasites. 30% were potentially pathogenic. There's also a higher incidence of worms in crickets, and viruses, and bacteria, and funguses. Then we have the safety studies, right? We have to do all that. Then we're gonna have to probably heat and cook these insects to kill off the microbes, but then we're also going to kill off a lot of the nutrition as well. There's this unregulated field of using pesticides on these insects. So you can use different chemicals to kind of manage some of these other factors that can be growing in these bugs. Then the next thing is that if someone has an allergy to shellfish, okay, because there's a similar protein involved, chances are they'll also have an allergy to bugs if they start consuming them. And then the next factor is that these bugs have this exoskeleton. It's like bones outside their body. And the main compound in there is called chitin. It's an anti-nutrient. It's not digested by our microbiome. And it also blocks vitamin A and vitamin E. And so this is just another negative. And so now we're doing another human pilot experiment that will put people on bugs and then see what happens after years. My viewpoint on the future of food being bugs does not look like it's gonna happen. There are too many negative points about this. Now, if you wanna know what I think you should be eating right now to regain your health and be super healthy, I think it's probably the most healthy food that you can eat. It's right here, check it out. I have a quiz for you today, and I wanna see which one of these do you think is healthier? We're mainly only looking at the nutritional facts. So we have product A and product B. On the left, there's 29 grams of total fat. On the right, there's 8 grams of total fat. On the left, there's 4 grams of saturated fat. On the right, there's only 1 gram of saturated fat. On the left, there is 17 grams of carbohydrate. On the right, there's 16 grams of carbohydrate. On the left, there's 1 gram of sugar, and on the right, there's 0 grams of sugar. So Based on that data, which one is healthier? Now, you're probably going to pick B, right? Well, let's take a look at what A is. A is avocados. What's B? Doritos. That's right, Doritos. Tip number 1, you cannot determine the health of a product by the nutritional facts. You must look at the ingredients. Let's take a look at these ingredients. The first one is corn, and then we have vegetable oil, corn, canola, and or sunflower oil. And then we have maltodextrin, then we have a bunch of other things, and then we have monosodium glutamate, and then dextrose. And in a minute, I'm going to simplify this whole thing for you. So really, there's only 3 ingredients you have to watch out for. Everything else is a side note, but let's just do one more test. Okay, we have label A and label B. On the left, we have 0 grams of total fat. On the right, we have 0 grams of total fat. Of course, there's going to be no saturated fat on either one of those. So now we're at the total carbohydrates. A is 25 grams of total carbohydrates. B is only 13 grams of total carbohydrates. A is 19 grams of sugar, and B is 11 grams of sugar. Based on the data, which one is healthier? If you said B, okay, let's take a look at A. A is an apple. Let's take a look at what B is. Oh, what's that? That is something called Sunny D. It's like an orange drink. But let's take a look at the actual ingredients in this orange drink. Oh, we have the first ingredients, which is water. And then we have high fructose corn syrup. And then we have like 2% or less of all these concentrated juices, right? And then we roll right into the modified corn starch and canola oil. If you just depend on the nutritional facts, that would be healthier than an apple. All right, so what are we dealing with? We're just dealing with what is called ultra-processed foods, aka junk foods. Processed means removal. So you're taking away the fiber, the vitamins, the minerals, the trace minerals, the phytonutrients, the enzymes. We're taking everything out of it and we're leaving some basic material. And then we get the word ultra. Ultra means severe. So when we're severely taking away things, we're going through many different industrial processes or chemical reactions, including grinding something down, pulverizing it, high pressure, high heats, adding chemicals like solvents to extract certain things, taking out the colors with chemicals, taking out the flavoring or odors from it, and then you're ending up with this something that doesn't even resemble the original food. And so this is why they have to add flavoring, they have to add coloring, they have to add textures, they have to add preservatives, they have to add some synthetic vitamins to prevent certain diseases, and then they have to package it and make it look really amazing for you to eat. So the big question is, if we compare ultra-processed food to the definition of food, which is this: food is that which is eaten to sustain life, provide energy, and promote the growth and repair of tissues. So it has to keep you alive, give you energy, help you grow, and help you repair. So can ultra-processed calories actually do that? No, it can't. In reality, ultra-processed food is not food. Now, out of all the things that cause disease, that destroy your health, I would venture to say that ultra-processed foods are the most significant factor in causing health problems. If you disagree, please make a note down below and tell me what you think. Is it infection? Is it old age? Is it lack of activity? Or is it more junk food, simply because 80% of the calories in the grocery store are ultra-processed food? So the countries that consume the most ultra-processed foods have the most health problems. And the United States is right up there at the top. So how can we make this really simple? Number one, ignore the nutritional facts, okay? Go right to the ingredients. And there's 3 things that you want to avoid: seed oils, all the forms of sugar, and you want to avoid the starches. A lot of times when people define junk foods, they throw in the saturated fats. But when I went to the store last week and I was looking at all these junk foods, I didn't see a lot of saturated fat. I saw a lot of unsaturated fat, seed oils. Our diet is about almost 30% seed oils. That's creating a lot of damage. Inflammation, insulin resistance, neurodegenerative problems. And by the way, I have a link down below that you can download a little cutout for your wallet that basically describe in detail the 3 things you should avoid and all the other kind of names for the sugars, starches, and seed oils that you might not recognize. So you can pull this out of your wallet and just have it right there when you go shopping. All right, let's move to sugar. And a lot of times when you see sugar, it doesn't tell you if it's beet sugar or cane sugar or other types of sugar. But sugar is also in other forms. Glucose syrup, high fructose corn syrup, dextrose, and just straight glucose. Now let's move to the starches. Corn, corn starch, modified cornstarch, modified food starch, maltodextrin, dextrin, corn flour, wheat flour, modified wheat starch. Now, there's 2 more things that are kind of on the side that I would also recommend not consuming as well. Soy protein isolate. This is kind of an ingredient that fits into the definition of ultra-processed food because it's so altered and so refined. And then monosodium glutamate because that's a flavor enhancer. So go ahead and click the link down below and download the little card cutout so you can put it in your wallet and start reading labels and start getting this stuff out of your diet.